I know you are craving this flow state. You want to swing, trust your shot, confidence, no hesitation, and we can help you get there. So we're going to go through a couple shots center hit and give you the insights for how you can develop your stroke, what to focus on and what not to focus on to get into this flow state where you don't have to think and you can just swing and play and you know the shot's going to work. Now we're going to start with the shot center just hit, which might not look like much, but it's actually so revealing of how we need to develop our forehand for trust. So going back to the shot here, this is why we need to build our swing around the forearm shoulder action. This flicking action right here, racket rolls back, everything rolls back, and then everything flicks through contact. That is too quick for reason-oriented verbal cues. Look at this process. That was like 20 frames. That was well under half a second for the racket to go from here, do this full supination external rotation loop, come forward, get pressed through the ball, and pronate, supinate through the ball, creating spin and drive together. You're talking about less than half a second here. This is why cues like point the butt cap at the net, or cues like, oh, you know, get your racket angle exactly like this, manipulate it like this. That's why, it's at least why I believe coaches have so little success with those. This process is just too fast. Our sense of kinesthesia through this part of the swing is usually one single sensation. So it might be pull the racket, or it might be throw the racket. Or for some people, backward sensations actually work. So your sensation here might be throw it back and fire. Boom. Your sensation here might be pat the dog and fire. But it's one sensation. You only get one sensation through this part of the swing, all right? You know, maybe someone like Roger Federer actually knows where the racket is here, but for all of us mortals, and I think for 99% of players too, like I've talked to Alexa about this, and for her, it's the same thing. She just feels how her hand is going to come through contact, and that's it. The entire swing from right here has one sensation, and it's I want my hand to come through a certain way. So you can have your hand come through a certain way, you can focus on your shoulder, you can focus on one sensation, and it's got to be atomic. Verbal cues in the middle of this process do not work. And now you're thinking, okay, so if I can't actually sense what's happening in my racket here, how am I ever going to have confidence? And this is the real secret behind forehand development, is that your arm and your body wants to throw forward in a certain way. So you design your grip the way you're holding the racket, and the way you swing and the way you set up your trunk to make whatever you want to do through here work. That is the secret behind the flow state, because thinking about this part of the swing is what knocks you out of the flow state. It is this exact motion where it's too fast, you can't actually sense what's going on, and yet, you know, right here, you're like terrified that your racket's going to be too open and you're going to sail the ball, or you're terrified that your racket's going to be too closed and you're going to hit the net. That terrifiedness is from not trusting this flicking action. And in order to learn to trust this flicking action, you have to feel it out, find something comfortable, and then build the rest of your swing around it. So there's actually a lot more going on here than the arm action. So look at the trunk. Ready? And boom. So the trunk is set up at this angle. So why this angle? Why not more straight up? Why not more down? Simply because this is a angle built around making that work. Watch the left arm action. Left arm out, pulls out, pushes back in. All of that action at the left arm for leverage at the left shoulder, which is leverage on the trunk, all of that is to aim the right arm action so you don't have to actively manipulate the right arm, because again, the right arm fires through and you trust it. So you use your trunk and you use your left shoulder to fire the right arm through, and that lets you trust it. And then the levers you have for control and manipulating the shot are primarily on the trunk and left side of the equation. Now, like I said, you get your one sensation, right? Whether it's, you know, how you want to use your hand or how you want to throw your shoulder back, you get your one sensation through the right side of the swing. But the rest of all your cueing, you know, look at the wide balance stance, right? Because he's wide like that, his hips are going to engage through this early. See how he starts sideways here? Not fully sideways. This is one of those shots where it's more abbreviated because it's a difficult shot. We'll see him wind his shoulders up more later, but he starts here, and then the hips, because he's wide, the hips give a lot more balance through this part of the stroke than they would if he were narrow. So all of those upstream factors are so that you can just flick through your arm with abandon and have it work. So when we talk about trusting your forehand, it's not mental. You practice over and over again firing your arm the natural way. And then you learn over time how to set your body up and use the rest of your body to make that work, so that by the time you get here, you just watch the ball and fire through it, and your brain coordinates the rest of your body to make that work. You are never thinking about your exact racket angle through here, because that is too fast for your kinesthesia to process. The shot we're going to look at next is all about probing, the visual and footwork process of getting the ball in the place in space where you can hit it comfortably. Now, this is not something that you just do automatically. This is something you learn and practice. So we talk about the shoulder, right? We talk about the shoulder release, the forearm release, and trusting it. This spot in the air for Yannick Sinner, for his body, this spot in the air is where the ball needs to be in order for the shoulder to be maximally comfortable. If the ball is a little bit off here, it'll be less comfortable. And if it's way off here, you won't even be able to swing at it your normal way. You'll have to tighten something up and kind of push it over or slice it over. This process right here, every single step he takes, every single move he makes is intentional. This is a visual footwork process. This is foot-eye coordination. It's almost like you're playing soccer. Your feet need to be so connected to your eyes here. You have to be low, double band athleticism, on balance, because you need to find this setup. This is a relative position, and it's different between players. So this is why we have to start with the shoulder action. You need to know what this comfortable strike feels like. Your goal is to get here, press through, and release your shoulder. That's your goal. And so that goal, you have to know what that feels like, so that all of this process is active and intentional and precise. Now you look at his shoulder. See how that left shoulder here, it's wound farther across the body here. Why? Because he's got more time to set up here, so he's got to pull a little harder with that trunk. He's going to get a little bit more rotation. Now, see how the arms actually cross here? We don't see that on every forehand, but he's hitting inside out here. So even though there's an explosive rotation here, we're holding that rotation more than usual to hit that inside-out target. Trust and confidence comes from trusting that right shoulder whip. And so all of this upstream stuff, and then the way the trunk is fired and the way the left arm is used, all of that is to send that maximally comfortable whip through the ball. And that's how you can take a shot like this. It's got no pace. You have to get all the way into the doubles alley and yet rip it with abandon. It's all of this upstream tracking and probing. It's the visual awareness of what this relative position looks like, so you can set this relative position up consistently. And then, of course, the double band athleticism, the nice use of the left arm for leverage, so that both the legs and the butt and the trunk can all accelerate that shoulder motion, and then, of course, the shoulder motion that finishes the swing. Last, I just want you to watch that back foot. See that back foot? See how it starts on the doubles alley, boom, and ends in front of it? Just that little bit of positive balance, just that little bit of forward wave transfer contributes a lot of velocity to this shot. Another thing with the shoulder action is you don't want to overhit with your shoulder. When you want to hit hard, it comes from the legs and the trunk. This shoulder action is actually very similar to the control-oriented shot we watched before. The difference is that that left arm is wound farther and that right leg is firing in more. That's creating the extra velocity. The shoulder, boom, just fires. Now this next shot is very Federer-esque. And I'm going to give you a couple ways you can practice using your balance like this to be able to execute like this in that flow state. So fundamentals first, review of what we've talked about. Probing, intentional movement, setting up this relative position between the ball and the body so that the shoulder can release. We do not overhit from the shoulder. So watch the shoulder release. He rockets the ball down the line, and yet that shoulder is basically firing the same way it did on all the other shots, including that kind of defensive shot out of the corner. What's the difference? Positive balance and trunk rotation. And specifically on this shot, positive balance. Watch that back foot. Prep on the baseline, leans in, and finishes a foot in front of the baseline. That weight transfer is what rockets the ball. If you try to rocket the ball using your shoulder, things are going to fall apart. We can also see great trunk coordination. Watch the off leg. See how that off leg pulls towards the hitting side shoulder? That is the way your trunk twists naturally. There's an oscillation to it where here that shoulder is stretched against the left hip, and the right shoulder and the left hip pull together. Okay, now that might sound complicated, but we can make that intuitive. One of the best tools we've found to do that is the medicine ball. The reason is, right here, okay, so you're prepped and you're trying to lean in and coordinate that trunk twist together. The racket's pretty light. No matter what you do here, the racket's going to go forward. With the heavier medicine ball, it forces you into a more biomechanically efficient weight transfer twist combination, which of course you'll end up connecting to your shoulder. What you're doing on the medicine ball is you're giving your intuition a tool in its toolbox. You're laying down that neurological pattern. If I want to hit hard, I transfer my weight and twist like this. Then when you get on court and you're watching this ball and you're probing into that spot that makes your shoulder work, you're feeling out that same neurological pattern you practiced on the medicine ball, connecting those together, and that's where this Federer-like magic happens, where it looks like you're barely even trying, your shoulder just releases naturally, but you're rocketing the ball down the line with accuracy. We have a digital library that we work with people. It explains a lot of these drills, explains what to feel, how to practice them, so you can work on motions like this and then integrate them into your forehand, get into that flow state, fire the shoulder every time, and use upstream actions to hit shots like this consistently. And we've got full videos on all of these concepts. That left arm action, why those arms sometimes cross. The abdominal X, why that hitting shoulder and off hip pull together, how to learn to feel that. One sensation you can use as your singular sensation through the right side, where your shoulder releases and using that to time your forehand. And then of course, active receiving and probing the ball, using your eyes and feet, setting up that relative position that's gonna make your forehand comfortable.